This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What a weekend. College football upsets galore. The World Series, Dodgers get it done again. They go back-to-back in what was one of the best World Series I know, at least I've seen in my lifetime. And an NFL card yesterday on Sunday that was loaded with the dogs finally starting to bark. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, as always. So we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Lots to get to, JVT, but overall, how was your weekend?
It was very good. It was very good. It was debaucherous, if you will.
Halloween weekend, that's fair.
Yeah, Halloween weekend. A lot of feeling really terrible over the course of the weekend, but rallied. We had a good show yesterday, I think. We're going to meet our boss, Steve Cohen, tomorrow, so maybe we'll find out differently. And now we have a new week to ruin and or succeed in, so I'm very much looking forward to it.
All right, let's see. And as one sport, the door gets closed in baseball.
Done.
We have a new one that opens, which is how we will kick things off as we begin the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
All right, top items on deck here today for Money Moves. College hoops officially tipping off today, and JVT, the action's already underway. We are in the midst of what will be 17 straight hours of college basketball. First tip at Winthrop this morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, and the last game of the night in Washington begins at 11 Eastern.
Yep, I watched a little bit of it this morning, had it on while I was doing some work. It was good to just get some really terrible basketball back on amongst young kids. So, yeah, really excited. Love college basketball. And we do get a banger later tonight. Florida, Arizona should be a really good game. And we get a good look at an NBA prospect. I know many don't care about that when BYU gets to take the floor against Villanova and A.J. Devonsta. So very much looking forward to the hoops tonight.
Yeah, that's the doubleheader right here in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena for the Hall of Fame series. Nice to get a ranked-on-ranked game right out the chute here. We'll also have our own Greg Hoops Peterson on the program in hour 2, give out some of his best bets for the college hoops card later on today, and thoughts on the futures market. I know, JVT, you wrote up the Mountain West for our college basketball betting guide, so lots of different angles that we'll hit in college basketball today, as well as Monday Night Football, as America's bettors love America's team. That's the way our fearless leader, Bill Adee, put it in this morning's VSiN Daily newsletter, with Monday Night Football coming up from Jerry World at both DraftKings and Circa. JVT, more than 84% of the bets and 70% of the handle on tonight's game are laying the 3.5 with the Cowboys over the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that should be the case. I don't know, man. You will have some of the numbers and the specifics on this Cardinals offense since one Jacoby Brissett took over, but it has looked different, and it has factually looked better than what it was with Kyler Murray. So I don't know if with that defense that you're just going to walk in and get a big win over the Arizona Cardinals. I think Brisket might have something to say about that.
Brisket, I like it. We'll preview this game numerous times, by the way, throughout the course of the show. All of the need-to-know injuries, prop angles, different things there. Two-way action on the total as well at that 53.5. But before we look forward, let's take a look back to everything that transpired on Sunday's NFL slate, where we had a quartet of contenders go down. The Chiefs close a 2-point favorite in Buffalo. They lose by a touchdown. Packers were the second largest favorite of the day, lose at Lambeau to the Carolina Panthers. The Colts saw Danny Dimes turn into Danny Pennies all over again against the Steelers, with 5 of their 6 total turnovers at his hands. And then the Detroit Lions, who were bet up from 8.5 to 9.5 point favorites, hosting the Vikings, looked bad all game in what was an eventual field goal loss to the Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy in his debut. What did you make of the way it all transpired yesterday?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to look at it when you see all these teams within the context of all these favorites coming in as well, which of course yesterday they do not, which we'll get to. But when you have all of the teams that you expect outside of Buffalo, who is a contender in its own right, lose the way they do in these situations, it is pretty surprising. It's hard not to overreact. And, you go to each one, and I think you can find reasons as to why they lost. I think the real question is, will those reasons persist as you move forward? Yeah, I bring up that because Indianapolis is a good example. Initially, I think a lot of people were shocked by the performance of an offensive line that was getting his rear end kicked throughout that entire game. Well, Daniel Jones is actually the now 8th most pressured quarterback in the NFL. It's not like he was pressured on an exorbitant amount of his dropbacks. It was right in line with what he's been all season. It's been 33%. So the question now becomes, is that something you can do with Indianapolis if you've got these bookend rushers? They did it, by the way, without blitzing him for the most part. All of the turnover-worthy plays that Daniel Jones committed came when they were rushing 4 or fewer, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's not like they sent any blitzes and confused the looks or anything like that. That was just good old-fashioned man-on-man. I'm I'm going to beat you and get to your guy, and we're going to cause havoc. So you do wonder if that's going to be a small problem for them as you move forward. So things like that, I think you look for in each one of these and wonder if this is going to be a sign of things to come or just a blip on the radar.
Yeah, Colts were a 3.5 point favorite, end up losing 27-20 out there in Pittsburgh. And the turnovers we talk about for Daniel Jones, I feel like it was like every time we looked up to the screen, it was happening again. 3 interceptions, was strip sacked twice. 5 sacks in total on the day for him. And in terms of the turnover numbers for the season, JVT, they had just 1 turnover in their 7 wins this season, 7 in their 2 losses. And we saw the Steelers score 24 points off those turnovers yesterday. It was really, really costly for them. The Green Bay Packers, though, I think that's the one that was probably the biggest surprise of the day. They were a 12.5 or 13.5 point favorite, depending on the book that you were looking at in this one, at home, no less, against a Carolina Panthers team that just got brutalized by the Buffalo Bills a week prior. How did that happen? Why couldn't their offense get anything done, particularly in the red zone, which was an area that they were so good throughout the course of the season up until this point?
Well, that's the thing. They did actually, if you look at it, like if you remove the scores, and I tell you that Green Bay had 20 first downs, went 7 of 13 on third down, had 369 yards. It's 100 more than their opponent, averaged nearly 6 yards a play at 5.9. All of those things would tell you, oh, like they probably won this game. And yet, as you mentioned, you get to the red zone 5 times, you only score once, you turn the ball over twice. That is going to kill you every single time. And it doesn't help that you had your quarterback, Jordan Love, come in and have his worst game of the season. I mean, it was bad. And whether it was the weird interception that was not caught in the end zone, where I don't know if it was Dobbs or whoever it was that quit on the route, either way, this was a nightmare for Green Bay in every sense of the word. They outperformed Carolina down to down. Yeah. But in the key moments, they faltered.
Costly injury as well for their stud tight end, Tucker Kraft, who it's officially official, ACL done for the season. And just when they get Christian Watson back, so now Tucker Kraft is out. They've already been down Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Matthew Golden left the game as well and didn't return. Their starting guard, Aaron Banks, also left the game with a stinger, and he's been in and out of the lineup throughout the course of the year. So now you have this team that everybody thought could be a Super Bowl type contender and was in this 1 seed role that loses to lesser than opponents. Like they played down to the level of their competition and now is dealing with injuries continuing to pile up. How worried should Packers backers be?
I think you have to. I mean, how are you going to trust this team? Yeah. You mentioned it. So it's, I think it was Miles Simmons, who works at Pro Football Talk, and tweeted out something along the lines of like, oh, here we are, like, the annual clunker for Green Bay. I thought we saw one. They already had one. Yeah, I was going to say, I thought we saw one earlier this year with Cleveland. And then now you have this. You have trailing a good chunk of that game against Arizona. And then the Dallas Cowboys tie as well, which I guess doesn't look as bad considering how good the Cowboys are offensively. But still, like, this is what this team has kind of been. Very inconsistent, oddly mistake prone in the worst times. And I think this has been always kind of my hesitancy with Jordan Love, or every once in a while you get one of these performances, you're like, brother, like, what are we doing, man? It's really bad. So I think in the grand scheme of things, again, they're a good enough team, defensively especially, that they're going to be in a lot of these games, and they have all the makings of being the best team, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL. But when they continue to put together these weird performances like this, I don't know how you can have the full-throated trust that this team's going to get it done.
Yeah, they're tied for the 4th spot now on the NFC odds board, 6th for the Super Bowl at double digits, 10-1. The Buffalo Bills now back to the favorites role to win this year's Super Bowl at 6-1 after the win over Kansas City yesterday. And the Chiefs now, after all of the success they had last year in 1-score games, have a 4th loss now in a game that was decided by 7 points or more. But the Bills have done this in the regular season against the Chiefs, right? And that's the whole thing, is that they have now won 5 straight and covered 5 straight in this series. In the regular season, it's the postseason that's been the problem.
So 2 things. First off, really quick, the last note on that Panthers, because the Panthers, of course, now record equals with the Kansas City Chiefs, so 2 teams that are exactly the same. Rico Dowdle is less than 200 yards away from the league-leading rusher spot in the NFL, because last night, or yesterday afternoon, Jonathan Taylor only had 45 yards rushing. So with Dowdle's performance yesterday, closing in, we've talked about this, that 25-1 that was last week on him to lead the league in rushing, and he's now clearly the guy. So that's a point, too.
Which kudos to Canales for finally recognizing, hey, this running back split with Chuba Hubbard ain't working. Rico Dowdle is the more explosive and consistent player. Let's use him and ride that running back throughout.
And the other one is big win and big loss, and just a big weekend for Buffalo in the sense of getting the 1 seed in the NFL, in the AFC. I mean, that's one we should know too. Is like the Chiefs, or excuse me, the Chiefs. The Chiefs were going to be in competition for that, but the Colts, a team that looked like maybe they're going to run away with it, take a really big loss. So Bills now in the driver's seat here with a big win to steal the 1 seed from everybody else that we thought was maybe going to be like these top tier, at least record-wise, top tier teams.
We'll get into some line moves moving ahead in week 10 a little bit later on in the show. We'll do that for college football in the NFL, but a lot of injuries impacting those lines as well. And notably at the quarterback position, Jaden Daniels dislocated his elbow last night on Sunday Night Football. Great performance by the Seattle Seahawks, but an unfortunate injury late for Jaden Daniels when you're questioning why he's even in the game at all. But a dislocated elbow. X-rays were reportedly negative, so no fracture. MRI expected to take place tomorrow. Might not be season ending, but it feels like their season is over anyways. Marshawn Lattimore also feared to have a torn ACL, and Luke McCaffrey is headed to IR with a broken collarbone. CJ Stroud had a concussion in yesterday's game for the Texans. We already mentioned Tucker Kraft. Joe Alt having an MRI today, who is believed to suffer another high ankle sprain on that right ankle. Adam Schefter said on Pat McAfee this morning he's going to have a surgical procedure to stabilize that ankle and hopefully will be able to return this season. But another huge loss for that Chargers offensive line. And my 49ers, another one bites the dust. Michael Williams, their first round pick.
Yep.
Torn ACL for him as well. You're already down Nick Bosa. You're already down Fred Warner on the defensive side. Bryce Huff, you're trying to get him back. And you're like, okay, well, at least we can try to rely on our young guy, our first round pick. He's done for the year as well.
Yeah, I think I brought this up before with your team. Like the Angels went through a rash of elbow injuries, and you thought at some point you got to talk to the training staff, replace it. It's just bad luck.
It's honestly wild what's happened to them the last 2 years. Okay, we got to step aside. We're just getting started here on Money Moves. When we come back, we've seen 5 straight Cowboys games go over the total, 3 straight for the Cardinals. Does the trend continue in prime time? Our first look at Monday night next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So we mentioned before the break the way that the tides have turned in the NFL with favorites and underdogs from last week to this week. So in week 8, JVT, favorites went 11-2 against the spread. And can you hit us with the stat that you had yesterday on Live Bet Sunday as well?
So if you include the Ravens game, so that week and then the Ravens game, going into Sunday's contests, the last 14 games or the previous 14 games, favorites had gone 12-2 against the spread. If you had made the point spread in those 14 games a minus 17, favorites still would have gone 9-5 ATS.
Like absolutely ridiculous. Yep. 10 of the 11 Sunday games last week were won by double digits. Flash forward to yesterday, NFL favorites in week 9, 5-8 ATS. Of the 12 games yesterday, 9 were 1-score games. So it was just a complete polar opposite flip of what we saw the week prior. Quite frankly, like last 3 weeks really were very favorites dominant, and the tides turned yesterday. Yeah,
at one point we were tracking it through the 3 weeks going into the Thursday night game. I think it was 31-9 straight up, 26-15 against the spread, somewhere in that range. So they were absolutely killing it. But, you know, we mentioned this a little bit going into it from our pregame and in the days leading up. You know, at some point, you were going to get these dogs to kind of bounce back. The market was going to adjust a little bit too much. I don't want to use our favorite phrase, too much. But when you see these point spreads... By the way,
that phrase is the worm turns.
That's right.
Eventually, the worm turns.
And it did. It turned. You know, you get these big spreads. I mean, think about it. Yeah. Divisional game for the Lions, you're laying 9.5. You know, the Packers laying 12.5, 13 against the Carolina Panthers. Albeit the Rams got there, but you know the big number that LA was laying against the Saints. So you see these massive favorites, and you wonder at some point in a league which is pretty parity dominant for the most part, especially given the way the game is constructed, that you're going to find a week that this was going to bounce back pretty hard, and we finally got it.
Real quickly, speaking of the Panthers and Packers, I don't know if anybody else has been seeing this or tracked this on social media, but I thought it was hysterical. As somebody who gets a lot of Panthers content that is on my feed regularly, the Meow Mix, a Carolina Panthers podcast, they basically just put up shop, called it a day after the Panthers started the season, 1-3. They got waxed by New England, and they're like, okay, we're ending the podcast. We're going to step aside for a while. Then this week they say we're coming back. I mean, they're on this run. They've gone 4-1 since. apparently players and former players were all tweeting at them, no, we can't have it. Clearly, whatever you guys are doing, ending the podcast is working for us. And so I feel bad because they really did. They said, like, we're back this week. And then they had so much coming at them saying, absolutely not. Do not come back. We don't have it. Keep the juju. Yeah. The best way you can actually support the team and cover the team is by not covering the team.
I completely agree. You can't. I mean, that's,
so funny.
I'm surprised. Honestly, I'd be offended the fact that they thought they could come back.
Right?
Yeah.
The disrespect that you put.
What are you doing?
Like, if you're going to, the name is Keep Pounding for a reason. You gave up.
What are they, 4-1 or 4-2 since they got rid of the pod?
4-1 since. Yeah. The lone loss was the one to Buffalo, and they've had, obviously, like a couple big wins in that.
Win? So. Bryce Young didn't play. Just throwing it out there.
True story. And, again, Andy Dalton, you broke your thumb so early in the game, and you're still, like, you thought you were going to have your moment. How'd that go?
Yeah.
Come on. Okay, anyways, we do have one more game to wrap up the Week 9 slate coming up today. Monday Night Football on deck between the Arizona Cardinals and Dallas Cowboys. Spread sitting 3.5, total 53.5. Arizona coming off the bye. Jacoby Brissett will start again. Kyler Murray going to miss his third straight game dealing with that foot sprain. Did see reports, though, that he is, quote, making progress and could have a role in the game, but will not start. So what do you take that as? Should we expect to see any Kyler Murray today, or is it just like an emergency backup thing?
Is that this? I mean, I read that this morning, too, and I was like, okay, is that like a package? Is that like, it's not necessarily a wildcat. You don't need him in terms of Hail Marys because Brissett's got a strong enough arm that you can do that. You wouldn't need him in quarterback sneak situations because Brissett is a better option for that. So I don't know if that's just some gamesmanship. Maybe I guess you could do some wildcat stuff with both of them out there, but if you're willing to put his body at risk in a wildcat formation where he's out wide or doing some stuff with the football, running it, why would he not be available to then play the game? So that leads me to believe that you're just BSing, right?
Yeah.
I would think that that's probably the case. Or are we going to get a Utah situation where they've been lying this whole time and then Kyler Murray's going to trot out there and start the game?
Just an emergency backup. Yeah. Or I was saying like that he's perfectly fine. He's ready to go, but we're actually just going to start the other guy.
I mean, what is it? Quiet quitting is maybe it's quiet firing. Just I don't know about that.
Come on.
Maybe they've moved on. I don't know. But either way, it's weird. But I think that dynamic is obviously, because it's quarterback, the most important. So a couple of numbers for you here. First off, just the basic numbers for you when you look at the difference. The last two games for the Cardinals, 25 points per game, 365 yards per game, 5.2 yards per play. Under Kyler Murray, 20.8 points per game, so about 5 points fewer, 288 yards per game, about 80 fewer, and then 4.8 yards per play. You also have this difference here, and you can see some of the different metrics. They're passing the ball more. With Brissett as their starting quarterback the last 2 weeks, they're throwing it 62% of the time. With Murray, it was 59% of the time. They're running it only 37% of the time and compared to just 40% of the time. Yards per play, pretty simple difference there. You see it. Murray was under center, 4.8 yards per play, 5.2 with Brissett. The EPA per play, look at the big difference there. They're much more efficient. The one drop-off so far has been, it's been a coin flip in the red zone under Brissett, and they were scoring at a higher rate in the red zone with Murray. I think you can attest some of that to his athleticism in those tight windows. But either way, this has been a market improvement under Jacoby Brissett as opposed to what Kyler Murray is. So you do wonder if, against a defense, which, as we know, we can rattle off the numbers, right? 31st in EPA per play, 30th per pass, per rush, 30th as well. Success rate, they're 31st. 26th in explosive play rate allowed. One would assume that Brissett can operate pretty well here.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I said to you earlier this week, and I said when I was a guest on the Megapod with Gil and the crew last Tuesday, that I actually I bet the over in this game, and I actually like that more with Brissett starting than Kyler Murray because of a lot of the reasons that you just listed out. But I guess let me go down that road of why I do like the over today. I feel like the market just hasn't fully accounted for how good this Cowboys offense is and how bad their defense is. And with Brissett running point for Arizona, I think that adds to the cause. They've averaged 25 points per game his two starts. They're fresh off a bye. I think they should be able to score on this unit. And you look at what Dallas has done offensively this season. They're the number 2 scoring offense in the league, averaging more than 30 points per game. In the Cowboys' 3 home games this season, they've put up 40-plus points in all of them. Dak, best QBR in the league, third in entering the week, that is, third in pass yards, 5th in completion percentage, tied for second most in touchdown passes. What we have seen with Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Javonte Williams, this offense is humming. And I know it's a primetime standalone game. Weird, clunky things can happen, but I feel like points are going to be all over the place today. And so even though we've seen a lot of two-way action on this number at 53.5, I feel pretty confident in the over.
Yeah, I mean, you can be confident. Maybe would you look at playing this up to a sort of 54? 55 is like the next key number, if you will, from a total standpoint. Yeah. About 2.9% of the time totals fall there. 51 is a key total as well, so you can kind of see the market's belief here that this is going to be a high-scoring game, given where it's at. And it's just the difference, too. You know, we list some of the numbers in terms of how the team is performing. Look at some of the differences in terms of the way these two guys play. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, Kyler Murray's average depth of target in his 5 starts was just 6.4 yards downfield. Brissett's is 9.6.
Yeah.
So, like, he is shooting the ball downfield. He's going after the sticks. He's being aggressive. He's taking care of the ball. 1 turnover-worthy play compared to 3 for Kyler Murray in his 195 dropbacks. I think one of the big ones here today, and it's going to be interesting because the Cowboys actually can pressure the quarterback relatively well, especially along the interior. The time to throw is much longer for Jacoby Brissett. He holds onto the ball longer. Obviously, it makes sense. He's throwing the ball further downfield, waiting for routes to develop. You do wonder that if the Cardinals don't find that success, is it because of that dynamic, a decent interior pass rush versus a quarterback that holds onto the ball a little bit longer than most, and thus maybe you get these situations where the offense falters a little bit if you're the Cardinals, only because he's getting sacked. But all in all, across the board, it's hard not to argue that this has been an improvement.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, but that's the way that I'm playing this game. I know we're going to attack it from some prop angles a little bit later on as well. Before we do hit the break, though, want to hit one of the news items of the day with the NFL trade deadline coming up tomorrow. The Eagles, boy, they make a good move coming up this morning for Miami edge rusher Jalen Phillips. Adam Schefter, the first to report it this morning. They get Phillips in exchange for a 2026 third-round pick. It's the third trade they've made in the last week ahead of the deadline, in addition to Jair Alexander and Michael Carter coming up in the cornerbacks room. And it just feels like Howie Roseman, year after year, finds ways to add to his team to make them better when you need it down the stretch.
It's ridiculous. The Dolphins haven't been good. This is their best pass rusher by a mile. Yeah. He leads the team in total pressures by 11, and he has 11. He's got 32. The next guy, Bradley Chubb, is 21. So he has been their best pass rusher. His pass rush win rate, 19%. Like, he's great across the board. And I'm surprised you didn't maybe try to get a little bit more for him. I know he's got some serious lower body injuries in his history, but like, this is clearly a dude that's going to be great for Philadelphia.
I'm also very curious to see what the Cincinnati Bengals are going to do. Do they trade Logan Wilson? Do they trade Trey Hendrickson, who apparently, like, they weren't taking calls and now they're taking calls all of a sudden?
I mean, given the way this is going, I'm assuming Trey Hendrickson is going to be an Eagle probably in like the next week.
Please don't say that. But
Colts, give him a call.
For Cincinnati, though, you can get a pick. You can save $10 million off your books. Like, it makes too much sense for where you're
Trey
at
Hendrickson
this season.
Looked pretty good in Indianapolis.
He looked pretty good in San Francisco as well, but I don't think we can afford him.
What's the point?
That
season's lost.
Listen, I know that baseball is done, but we at VSiN are still trying to help you out with our Sports Equinox special, giving you the extension for just $120. You come join us on a full-time basis. You get access to everything we have right now, the daily best bets, all of the betting splits, our AI-driven prop projections and matchup tools, so much more. Get access to it all through May 1st for $129. That's less than $20 a month. Sign up today, vsin.com/subscribe. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Boy, did this creep up on me, guys. College basketball already underway, tipping off earlier this morning, and there's still time to get your copy of our annual betting guide. This year's guide has Matt Euman's top 50 rankings, all 31 conferences previewed, Wooden Award candidates, futures, and season-long prop bets, plus betting nuggets on every major conference from our guy Greg Hoops Peterson, who we're going to have on the program, by the way, coming up in hour 2. The only way, though, to get the guide is by being a VSiN Pro subscriber. Sign up now, just $120. You'll get VSiN Pro access to everything we do through May 1st. That's all college hoops season, March Madness, and beyond for less than $20 a month. Sign up today at vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. We've got a pair of big games coming up in Vegas, by the way, where we are at the Hall of Fame series coming up at T-Mobile Arena. Florida, Arizona, Villanova, BYU should be fun. And for the Florida Gators, it's interesting that the number 3 ranked team in the country trying to repeat, which is never easy to do. They lose 3 of their top scorers from last year's title team, but had such a good recruiting class. They're expected to be at the top yet again. Can they do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can argue, despite the fact that you lose Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, Will Richard, that you have still the best backcourt in basketball. When you bring in guys like Xavier Lee from Princeton and Boogie Fland, who played for Arkansas, that's a pairing there at guard that is incredible because both can handle the ball, both can run your offense, both averaged over 5 assists per game last year. Lee was great for Princeton in terms of his ability to score as well. So you got to really like what you have here in your backcourt. And then you have the key returning production. Haw as well coming back. He's making a switch to small forward. And when they plugged him into the lineup last year, it really made a big difference for him. And at center, too. So it's hard not to like what Florida brings to the table in the national picture. Todd Golden is clearly a very good coach, knows exactly what to do with this team and all the buttons to press. It was an incredible run for them, too. And, man, I find myself really trying hard not to. I guess I don't even know why, but you look at some of the numbers and it feels too easy to get double digits with a team like Florida, considering what they bring back. I think, and again, we're all kind of guessing at the beginning of the year because there are some new pieces, new faces, how they all fit. Reading up on Florida, what I know about the guys that they have on their roster, I guess my question would be is just the overall depth and bench production. What's that going to look like? Who's going to be the leading guy off of the bench? Where's the scoring pop going to be when you start to dip into some of those reserves? But either way, man, you stagger you 2 guards. You're always going to have a lead dude out there. Yeah. It's hard not to like what Florida brings to the table.
And again, 16-1 that price for them right now. Purdue, your co-favorite with Houston at plus 950, and they are your preseason number 1 coming into the year. You have to go all the way back to 08-09, North Carolina, to be the last team to win the title after being ranked number 1 in the AP preseason top 25. And we know this team has been the top team at some point. For the last 5 years, they've had the opportunity. They've been in the title game, but haven't ultimately won that championship. How do you view them this season? Because obviously the expectations and hype are high.
What's the comp for that? Is that I don't want to say the Clippers of college basketball, but the team that just generally has some pretty good expectations for very good reasons and never really achieves the goals that you want.
So the 49ers who have honestly, they've been in the Super Bowl how many times the last 6 years and then they can't win it?
To keep the comp going there, you unfairly run into a UConn team that was just absolutely dominant. Your 49ers run into the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs. So it's really hard to buy in, I guess, to a team that has fallen flat many times and has some big eggs on its face in its past. But this team, man, 4 starters back from last season. They have the Big Ten's only 2 returning first-team all-conference players. That's Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Smith and Renn are great. Smith, 15.8 points per game, over nearly 9 assists per game. Kaufman-Renn with 20 points per game is going to be a great scorer, one of the best in the country. And they're just a well-coached team, as we know. Deserve to be at the top. I think they're the number 1 team in the country, right?
Yep.
AP poll-wise. So I think they deserve to be there. I think they're going to consistently be there. One of those teams, I wrote an article about this in the NBA guide, but those rare wire-to-wire winners where, by the time you get to the end of the year, never once do your odds to win a championship float past what the preseason odds were. And then you ultimately achieve that goal. I feel like Purdue is going to be one of those teams where those odds are just going to continue to either stay stagnant or get shorter. And I don't think there's going to be a time to buy lower on this Boilermakers team outside of maybe some, pretty traumatic injury that thus he would come back later in the year. But it seems like this team's got everything. You should mention Fletcher Lawyer, too, who averaged 14 points per game last year as well.
I mean, Smith and Lawyer have been the starting backcourt in all 110 Purdue games since they joined their freshman season in 22-23. They've been awesome. And Smith, by the way, an even shorter number than Purdue to win the national championship is him to win the Wooden Award and be the top player in college basketball this year, sitting at 6-1. Anything else from a big picture futures perspective before we dive into the conference that you wrote up for the college basketball guide?
Nothing pretty crazy. 2 of the teams they're going to play tonight, I'm pretty interested in.
Okay,
I know we're going to talk with Greg here, but first off, we'll talk about Arizona really quickly, just because Arizona, I think, is a pretty interesting team, and Arizona BYU sharing some similarities in that their head coaches, I think, are playing now though this we'll call it 2025 style of basketball. Heavy emphasis on analytics, 3-point shooting, shots at the rim. Arizona with a little bit more emphasis on that FIBA style of basketball. But either way, Arizona, I think, is really interesting. They have this kid, Braden Burries, who's going to make his debut, 5-star prospect, number 9 recruit, according to 247. I think it's kind of always difficult to rely on true freshmen, but this kid looks pretty impressive in the things that I've seen from him. Big-bodied, he's 6'4", 205. In a matchup like tonight, for example, him going against Boogie Fland, who's a little bit smaller, that's going to be fun to see if he can go after him. He could score at all 3 levels, and then you bring back some production for this team overall. where I know that they were a very disappointing defensive team last year. I think by the time they got the Big 10 play now, they were floating around the middle of the pack in defensive efficiency against conference opponents. So I'm going to be very curious to see what that's going to look like for Arizona, if they're going to be any better, and what this kid looks like as well. But for BYU, you look at what they're going to look like, especially with this kid that's expected to be in the lottery, AJ DeBonsta. That is a team that has all of the expectations in the world coming into this, and obviously pretty solid favorites today against Villanova, who's kind of rebuilding everything. But I'm really interested to see what BYU brings to the table, because DeBonsta's big-bodied kid as well. Seems like he's got the skill set to do it, and I buy into the expectations. I think the Cougars are really well coached. I like their system a lot. The pace, the spacing, everything that you need, I think, to play basketball in today's day and age. And they're one of these teams that I think you could definitely buy in on, I think, big picture.
Yeah, should be pretty good. 8.5-point favorites today against Villanova. But to go back to Arizona real quickly, not in the SC Next Top 100 rankings, but part of the incoming freshman class also for the Wildcats in Tucson, Bryce James.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. Yeah. Totally forgot about that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Middle child of LeBron. So there you go. Maybe he'll make.
So the least loved one, right? Is that the middle child?
I get, yeah, usually, honestly, tough pill to swallow if you're Bryce.
Maybe it'll turn out to be the best one.
Did you fire on anything for today's card of games, though? There's like a zillion.
No, so for the NBA, I feel like I have more confidence starting the season because there is some like continuity.
I'm gonna feel it out a little bit.
I like to watch college basketball and get a feel first. I would say I'd lean a little bit toward Arizona, just because I do like what they bring to the table. But the guard play, I think, is going to be so good for Florida.
Okay.
So we'll see what that is. But either way, no, I'm going to sit here and watch. Tonight's a fact-finding mission. But going back to like big picture stuff, BYU 18-1 or more. When you talk about maybe some teams that are worth investing in early, BYU, I think, is definitely one of those teams.
I have one bet so far for the college basketball season in play, and it's just because I do it every year. San Diego State to win the Mountain West Conference, and I know even at the low, like plus 130 price, you don't think it's a bad bet after having gone through the league yourself. What do you like?
No, I mean, I think they're rightfully so, like the best team. I kind of liken their status at the top of the Mountain West to that of Boise State this year. With Boise State, where, and I should say, sorry, in football, Boise State in football, where like Boise State was clearly the best team in a somewhat weak Mountain West. And, the more I went through.
Although it looks like the Aztecs could win that too.
Right, exactly. So, but the more I went through the conference and as I was reading our preview, the more I kind of came around to, first off, San Diego State should win this. But if there was going to be a challenger, I kind of like what Grand Canyon got in the transfer portal here. They do lose quite a bit from last year. Only one starter's back, Mekhi Williams. But Bryce Drew's a good coach. He gets this Norfolk State kid, Brian Moore, that comes in, average at 8. Did I do right? Norfolk? Did I say that right?
Norfolk.
Brian Moore, that comes in. He brings in Jaden Henley from UNLV. Both are double-digit scorers. Got a big center from UC Riverside just to help him out as well. And I think he comes into a Mountain West that has some new faces on the bench at head coach. He might be already one of the best coaches in the league at this point right now. He's won at least 23 games in his last 4 seasons over there at Grand Canyon. So I think this is a team that if you're taking shots in the middle of the pack, and 11-1 is not really in the middle of the pack, they're closer to the top, I think Grand Canyon might be able to make some noise in their first year in the Mountain West.
Here's the way the top of that board looks. SDSU around plus 120, plus 130, depending on where you look. Utah State plus 360. Yep. The Broncos 5-1, New Mexico 10-1. There's Grand Canyon 11-1, CSU 15-1, UNLV 18-1 before the odds really start to get long. It is weird for me though, as a Mountain West lifer, seeing Grand Canyon in the league. And it's just going to get even weirder.
I was going to say, it's kind of sad. You're going to be gone. You're not going to talk about the Mountain West anymore. Mountain West was, and maybe still could be, but was a really good basketball league. Yeah. And the addition to Grand Canyon for at least 1 year makes it a really strong league too.
I mean, there's time like regularly getting 4 or 5 teams into the NCAA conference tournament. Okay, we got to step aside. Coming up on Money Moves, so I don't have to cry and talk about Mountain West hoops for the moment. Commanders fans have a right to be ticked off about Jaden Daniels getting injured, especially the way he did yesterday. We'll get into that, plus why I think this play should be reviewable, and more coming up in Call Me Crazy, but as we overreact to the weekend that was.
watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Put on your tinfoil hats.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The whole world gone crazy.
For Call Me Crazy, but...
All right, let's jump right in as we continue to overreact to the weekend that was. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here on Money Moves. And I'm going to start with what I think is a pretty obvious one, JVT, but call me crazy, but why was Jaden Daniels still in the game late yesterday? For anyone who missed it, and many of you might have, because the game got away from the Commanders so early on Sunday Night Football against Seattle. But Daniels suffered a dislocated elbow in the loss. It looked ugly. We still don't know the severity of it yet. But for me, it's not just that you're down 31 points with 7 minutes to go in the game. It's that you're running a sweep with an already injured quarterback while down 31 points with 7 minutes to go. I just feel like it's unnecessary. And I'm not saying like that a knee and a hamstring injury is going to lead to, like, this was a freak accident. But you have a quarterback who is your ticket to success and is one of the most exciting and young quarterbacks in the National Football League. If you want any chance to have success in the league, you need him healthy. He's already missed so much time this year. Why is he still trotting out there at the end of the game like that?
Yeah, I'm going to fight you on this one.
Okay, go for it.
I didn't have a problem with it at all. I mean, you're down. He's your starting quarterback. We see plenty of times where teams are down by wide margins and they keep their guys in there to try to form some sort of comeback. And I will say, you fight against your own point when you call it a freak accident. It's a freak accident.
I understand that.
You kind of cut yourself down at the knees.
No, but it's completely preventable though if he wasn't even out there. That's the point for me.
At what point margin do you pull him? What's your margin?
Maybe let's say 24. Is that good? Is that good
Seems
enough
very
for
arbitrary.
you? Sure, but it's one of those, you're not coming back from 31 points down. Once you get to the thing where it's like historically out of reach, maybe don't do it.
That's ChatGPT. How many times?
Because ChatGPT's already wrong. But I mean, I feel for him. I feel for Commanders fans. He's somebody who coming into the league already, one of the knocks against him was that he's slight in frame. He's missed multiple games already this season with injury. Why are you messing with it? So Marcus Mariota, it's your team now. Where do you want to go first?
All right, this one's simple, but call me crazy, but I'm down with these 8 a.m. Eastern time tips. This is great today. I was fired up at 5 a.m. sitting out here on the West Coast watching Queens Winthrop. It's great. Winthrop, by the way, 4-point favorite. Gets it done, 81-74. I'm down with the early tip times, man. Come on now. We got to, because we used to, when we were a proper country, on the opening days of college basketball, we would get those like midnight to midnight marathons. Remember that? Yeah. Where you would start and then you'd be watching your Aztecs tipping off at like 9 o'clock at night or whatever it is, just getting ready to go. I'm down with the 8 a.m. Eastern tip-offs. That's great.
When I used to live in Charlotte and I was working this late night editing job at NBC News Channel back in the day, watching some of those late night games and editing them was brutal for me on the East Coast. I'm glad I'm back here where West Coast, best coast for sports viewing. By the way, it will be nice to have college hoops like that we can give score updates like Murray State and Omaha ongoing right now. Murray State up 44-35. Omaha getting 11.5 on the live line. Total 146.5. If you want to get involved, there you go.
Can't show it. I think it's a violation.
Okay, here's my next one. Call me crazy, but intentional grounding should be reviewable. And maybe I'm coming at this from a very specific take in that I had the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. But let me set the table for you yesterday afternoon. Chiefs-Bills, 2nd and 6, 6.5 to go in the third quarter from the 45-yard line. Patrick Mahomes tries to hit tight end Robert Tonyan on a deep crosser. The ball's tipped at the line of scrimmage. Officials throw the flag for grounding, assuming he was just trying to get the ball out because he's under duress. But in the replay, it is clear that the trajectory of the ball was significantly altered by the hand of Michael Hoyt. At that point, it's a one-possession game. Flag is huge from a momentum standpoint because you go from 3rd and manageable to 3rd and 16. Mahomes ends up getting sacked. Buffalo gets the ball back. They score on the ensuing position. And it's like all of the air is taken out of the Chiefs' sails at that point. It's just an extremely costly sequence for something that we had very clear video evidence for being wrong. And I just don't understand why some of these things that it feels like it should be so simple that you have the replay assist. If something is wrong, you can just change it. but because it's not a reviewable thing, you can't. And I just feel like in general, there are some of these plays that if it's very clear and obvious on the film, we should be able to just get it right. I feel like getting it right is more important.
Sure, but then you open the can of worms of we can almost adjudicate everything, and then every game's going to take like 6 hours.
But that's so quick. Like, that's not even something that you need to...
I think you're right in general, but then again, like, it's kind of like what I just asked you. Is like, all right, at what point do you stop? Like, at what point... Because you could theoretically fix and correct and review everything and get everything 100% right. So at what point do you draw the line of like, this is the thing we don't
There's probably holding on every single play, right? But you're not going to go, sure, like some of this, but some of that stuff is subjective, some of it's not, and that's not.
Remember the year that they allowed the review of the pass interference, and we found that these officials were just refusing to go against their guys. There's that element of it as well, where maybe they're just going to watch these and go, no, we can't make our guys look good or bad, because that's the other part about it. If you're constantly correcting these officials over and over and over again, at some point, the officials are going to go, all right, get rid of this, because you're making us look like idiots, even though we all kind of know already sometimes it is.
Well, that's why I like what they're doing in college football with us getting to see into like what the officials are saying and what the replay review room says. But for this in particular, like you can't have Gene Steratore coming on the broadcast and saying, no, that's very clearly tipped and the call is wrong, and then have it not be something that's changeable, in my opinion. So that's mine.
All right, get ready for it. Call me crazy, but Texas is winning the playoff game, folks. Come on now. Gets a big win over Vandy over the weekend. Yeah, let's make like a fake little cute comeback, whatever it is. I heard somebody screaming their lungs out in the book on Saturday when Vandy kicks the extra point to go down by 3, because I guess they got the wrong number. It's 2.5 all week. I don't know what you were sleeping on here. But Texas is going to do this. Texas is going to win a playoff game. They're going to win out. They're going to get to the college football playoff, and they're going to win a playoff game because their defense is just good enough that they're going to get it done.
Did they not do everything in their power, though, to squander that lead late in the game?
I mean, I think it was one of those where they were clearly up by enough and they let off the gas. You could maybe make the argument that, yes, that was the case, but...
And listen, I get that at the end of the day, when it comes to the college football playoff conversation, wins and losses are what matter above all. But should we not also take into account that you need overtime to beat Mississippi State? That you're taken down to the wire against a 2-and-whatever Kentucky team that hadn't won a game in the SEC in forever, and they finally got one this past week. But do we not take that into account? How ugly it has looked in numerous games?
Do we not take into account that over his last 2 starts, Arch Manning's completing nearly 70% of his passes for over 670 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception?
I told you before, I don't think Arch is as bad as he's gotten a rap for. I think it's more of the offensive line that's been the issue.
That's what I'm saying. And now, they did lose a bunch of receivers to injury in this game, so that's good. We got to monitor that. But I'm just pointing out that Arch is getting better. This defense is legitimately good. And I think we should prepare ourselves for a world in which Texas is potentially winning a playoff game. And remember, just throwing it out there, there is one team that made Ohio State sweat. And that was this Texas team.
Week 1.
I'm just saying.
Week 1. Call me crazy, but am I going to have to cancel YouTube TV? This is starting to get ridiculous. And listen, I know in this case in particular with ESPN and ABC that they are largely to blame in their side of it. But why is it every couple months YouTube TV's having to come out and say, sorry for a disruption in your service. You're not going to be able to have Fox this week. You're not going to be able to have ESPN this week. It's constant that it's happening. And now, like, I'm in a situation where I can't watch Monday Night Football tonight. I have to go somewhere to do it because you don't have access to it. I'm like, that's ridiculous.
It's the way to do it. We get a group of us. We all go out on a Monday night, pick a new spot, go watch some games.
I work my first Notre Dame game in history, and my family can't watch it at home because they don't have access.
I saw you.
It's silly. Well, thank you for watching at the Westgate. You told me I got a little big screen time there. That was nice.
Yes, you did.
But is this not like, it shouldn't be that hard. I don't see any other major providers that are constantly coming out saying, oh, sorry, you're not going to have this week.
I would generally agree with everything you're saying. Fight the man, cut the cord, just go out and watch it. I'll also say from a live betting standpoint, too, again, you're always working against it because you're pretty delayed. So that's also a problem with it, as well as just every single week finding out. I thought it was a joke when it first popped up. Because wasn't it like 2 weeks ago? Didn't they have something as well? With a Fox or something? And then now we're here?
It's just ridiculous. And like, no shade to Big Noon Kickoff, but I'm a game day person. And this isn't just because ESPN pays some of my checks. Like, I am a game day lifer. And
you're a big Dave Portnoy fan.
I mean, I'm fine with Barstool. I don't care about them like that. But I want college game day. That is what I want in the morning on a college football Saturday. Neither here nor there. Speaking of the fun of college game day, though, did you know that Omaha Steaks is the official sponsor of tailgating, and football meets flavor with VSiN and Omaha Steaks this football season. Built for the grill, Omaha Steaks smash burgers are pre-smashed. They got premium aged beef, go from freezer to bun in just 5 minutes with juicy, unforgettable flavor. And as a VSiN exclusive right now, we're giving you 16 free smash burgers when you have any purchase of $129 or more, and 50% off site-wide. omahasteaks.com/VSiN is how you can join in. Again, that's omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Minimum purchase may apply. See site for details. And we talk about this a lot on our Live Bet Sunday programming. On Sundays specifically, Saturdays, when you're trying to watch the game and you have to make that last minute run to go get some food for the family or whatever it is, if you had Omaha Steaks in the freezer, you'd already be there. You'd already be ready to go. It's that simple.
That is 100% fact. Love them. You should get them too.
You should. We got to step aside. We will be right back diving into a little more NFL conversation next. Monday Night Football is upon us. Could these prop angles be worth a look tonight? We'll tell you more next.